Good morning. My name is Rebecca Fisher, and on behalf of First Unitarian Church of Wilmington, Delaware, I welcome you to our worship service, whether you're joining us online or whether you're here in the sanctuary. Come as you are this morning, and do not leave your cares at the door, as we sang last Sunday at Music Sunday. Our aspiration is to create a community where you can arrive as your whole self, bringing all of your ideas, your cares, your emotions, and your love. No matter who you are or where you are on your spiritual or personal journey, you are welcome here at First Unitarian of Wilmington. As Unitarian Universalists, we value and encourage the individual search for truth and meaning, while we work in community to build a more compassionate and just world for everybody and everything. Now, in today's service, speaking of that individual search for truth and meaning, Reverend Larry will invite us to delve a little deeper into that search, exploring the sources of our living tradition, the religious pluralism, let's all say that together, pluralism that is fundamental to our faith. To help you in your journey, we have some classes starting this week, as well as some ongoing programs, and you can find them in the live stream brochure that is at the back of the sanctuary, and also on our website, firstuuwilm.org. You can also sign up for our weekly e-news if you visit our website, and that will send you an email digest just once a week with all of our programs that are coming up. And now, let us prepare our hearts and minds for worship.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Larry Pierce. I have the joy, the pleasure, the undeniable grace to be the minister here at the First Unitarian Church of Wilmington. So for our call to worship today, I want to teach you the words. I'm going to sing this through once, then I'm going to sing it again, line after line, and then we'll put it all together. Rebecca was teasing me that because the Music Sunday was just so wonderful last Sunday, that I'm auditioning for the choir. So, I've got some of the light in me. You've got some of the light in you. And a little bit of light from everyone is enough to see us through. Now you sing each line after me. I've got some of the light in me. You've got some of the light in you.
You've got some of the light in you.
And a little bit of light from everyone.
And a little bit of light from everyone.
Is enough to see us through.
Is enough to see us through.
Now let's put it all together. And this time when we say, I've got it in me, we'll touch our heart. And then find someone to point to when we say you. And then when we say everyone, just go like this and let's let that light, and we'll add some other words into this room. Are you ready? Together. I've got some of the light in me. You've got some of the light in you. And a little bit of light from everyone is enough to see us through. Love. I've got some of the love in me. You've got some of the love in you. And a little bit of love in everyone is enough to see us through. Hope. I've got some of the hope in me. You've got some of the hope in you, and a little bit of hope from everyone is enough to see us through. I've got some of the truth in me. I've got some of the truth in me. You've got some of the truth in you. And a little bit of truth from everyone is enough to see us through. And let's sing the last verse with light. I've got some of the light in me. You've got some of the light in you. And a little bit of light from everyone is enough to see us through. All right, I'm going to invite Jacob to light our chalice this morning. Just a little adjustment for height. Okay. And the mic. Oh, yes.
We light this chalice to celebrate Unitarian Universalism. This is the church of the open mind, the loving hearts, and the helping hands. We take care of the earth and each other. Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing hymn number 122, Sound Over All the Waters, and please remain standing after the hymn for the unison affirmation. The words to the hymn will be projected on the screen.
Thank you, Jacob.
Like the sun, all speech flow to music.
First Unitarian Church of Wilmington is a beloved community that nourishes minds and spirits, fights injustice, and transforms the world through loving action.
Today we are celebrating an important Unitarian Universalist rite of passage known as the bridging ceremony. The bridging ceremony celebrates the transition of our youth from their adolescence into young adulthood. It is a time of tremendous change and stress for our youth. They are on the cusp of so many changes in their lives. They are ready now to assume the challenges of young adulthood. Today, we honor the transition, the bridge, from youth to young adulthood. Eli Claney, please come forward. When parents bring their children before our congregation to be dedicated, we give the children a rose, symbolizing the beauty and newness of their lives. And we remove from the rose the thorns that might cause pain. Today, you stand before the congregation without your parents, and we give you a rose. Be careful. This time, we have not removed the thorns. As young adults, we hope you will grasp with life, with all its joys and beauty and difficulties and sadness. Yet we hope that what you have learned here over the years gives you the faith and spiritual tools to carry on in times of trouble. Knowing that our love and our encouragement go with you. Though adult life is occasionally sharply painful, as well as rich in color and texture, we urge our young adults to engage in it fully. And while we are not able to protect them, we try to give them the tools to protect themselves. Values by which to measure life's worth, decision-making skills, and the knowledge of how to think instead of what we think. A heritage of the right of conscience and the need to act on what the conscience demands. And a religious community in which to test and refine the possible directions of their lives. And so we say goodbye to the youth now with confidence, as well as some lingering wistfulness, and eagerly await the opportunity of greeting today's bridger as a young adult. Today you cross the bridge. We celebrate you for all you have been, for all you are now, and for all you will be. We give you our blessing as you leave this community of children and youth. As you cross the bridge into young adulthood, we give you a chalice to light your way.
Today marks an ending so that I may begin again, to hope and do and learn and be. Today I cross this bridge and join in fellowship. Let me grow, but don't let me go.
Great. So Eli, we bless you today. May your mind be on fire with wonder and with wisdom. May your heart be aflame with love for this life. May your hands be ignited with purpose, and may your spirit be aglow with courage and with compassion. Eli, you are a light unto this world, and you carry our steadfast love with you wherever you may go. Welcome.
And now will the congregation wait, Eli, please join in a blessing for Eli. The words are on the screen. We bless
you. We give you the gift of roots and the freedom of wings. May your life unfold with joy.
Amen.
And blessed be.
Welcome to our newest young adult, Eli Claney. And now, please join in singing our children to their groups. Today we are singing Becoming, and the words are on the screen.
I am who I'm becoming. I am all I have done. I am what I am dreaming. I've only just begun. I am who I'm becoming. I am all I have done. I am what I am dreaming. I've only just begun. You are who you're becoming. You are all you have done. You are what you are dreaming. You've only just begun. You are who you're becoming. You are all you have done. You are what you are dreaming. You've only just begun. We are who we're becoming. We are all we have done. We are what we are dreaming. We've only just begun. We are who we're becoming. We are all we have done. We are what we are dreaming. We've only just begun.
So whenever Unitarians can have a claim to fame, we seize it. So many of you may already know this, but the original Mother's Day was a Mother's Peace Day, which was established by the Unitarian Julia Ward Howe. Howe was so impacted during the time of the Civil War and the years that followed by the deaths that occurred among the husbands and fathers of those who had lost their lives, about the injuries that had been sustained, and by the impact that it had not only on families, but also on the society at large. And so she declared that there should be a Mother's Day of peace when women would rise up and make a declaration for peace, for war no more. That Mother's Day of peace became something else over time. But today, let's recognize and hold on to that Unitarian contribution to Mother's Day and the enduring hope and prayer that each of us have for peace. So join with me now in a time of prayerful meditation. O Spirit of life, of love, of compassion, we make space within our own hearts and spirits and within the heart of this room for that cry for peace. May we cry a mother's tears as we think of the places in our world where peace is needed. May we cry mother-like tears when we think of the children in Israel, in Gaza, in various countries in Africa, in Haiti, in places in our own country, who are suffering an unnecessary death, unnecessary hunger, and an unnecessary loss of joy. Our hearts alone cannot contain the pain, the uncertainty, and the suffering that is brought to these children. But we reach our hearts and our spirits towards more peace, more love, more light, so that each of us might radiate in our own actions in the world the compassion that is ours to be, the justice that is ours to do, the light that is ours to share. In this shared silence that follows, may we bring to our own hearts and minds our specific concerns for those we love, for ourselves, or for this world that we share. And after the shared silence, we'll have an opportunity to share, if you would like, aloud in this room or in the chat, what those specific concerns might be. So let's join for a moment in a shared silence. What are the concerns that you are holding in your own heart this morning that are weighing on your heart? A concern for yourself, for those you love or care about, or for this world. If you choose to do so, speak them aloud in this room or write them in the chat. What are the names of those people? And places.
Send our best wishes to a brave little boy, Oliver Williams, who's undergoing a series of surgeries for a rather serious bone infection, and hopefully he's home tomorrow.
Okay, Oliver. Patrick. I have a friend, Fred Hayes, who's recovering from cancer treatment.
My joy of returning to church after an absence of 6 months.
Our shared joy in seeing Ed here today. May all whose names were spoken and those unspoken find peace and healing this day as we move now into our musical meditation.
May God grant you
The living tradition of Unitarian Universalists draws from many sources. Direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces that create and uphold life. Words and deeds of prophetic people, which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. Wisdom from the world's religions, which inspires us in our ethical and spiritual life. Jewish and Christian teachings, which call us to respond to God's love by loving our neighbors as ourselves. Humanist teachings, which counsel us to heed the guidance of reason and the results of science and warn us against idolatries of the mind and spirit. Spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions, which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. Grateful for the religious pluralism which enriches and ennobles our faith, we are inspired to deepen our understanding and expand our vision.
Thank you, Rebecca. So Parker Palmer, the author, the activist, the teacher, was someone I first met when I was a young adult, a resident student at Pendle Hill, which is a Quaker center for study and contemplation in Wallingford, Pennsylvania, a place where Kathy and I went to a concert this past week to enjoy the community chorus. Parker had arrived as a resident about 3 or 4 years before me with his family, his wife at the time, Sally, and their 2 young children. When Parker arrived at Pendle Hill, he admits to being burned out in his community organizing work and as a sociology professor. He recognized he needed a time of respite and redirection. One might say that he needed to tend to his spirit. Now, although we might mean different things by that phrase, hopefully all of us can recognize those moments when we really need to tend our spirit. Now, one way to understand tending the spirit, I believe, is contained in one of Palmer's books, Let Your Life Speak, where he states, before I can tell my life what I want to do with it, I must listen to my life telling me who I am. By the time I had arrived at Pendle Hill, Parker Palmer was a dean to this intentional Quaker-oriented community for study and contemplation. Here was a gathering of a community of people, a few young adults like myself, to people in their 80s and beyond, all dedicated one way or another to listening to their life with fresh ears, all seeking a time of respite and redirection. This was a generative period in my own life, a hinge moment, which I have spoken about a number of times already, so I won't dwell on it much here. I just want to acknowledge that those moments do occur in our lives. Sometimes these hinge moments are external, visible changes. They are bridging times, much like our bridging ceremony today with Eli conveyed to us. We bridge. We bridge throughout our life, times like leaving high school and going to college, beginning one's life work, establishing a primary relationship, becoming a parent, or entering retirement, only to name just a few. What is more, oftentimes these hinge moments might be accompanied by outward, visible changes, but not necessarily so. They might also arise at times when we are going deeper and doing inner work, not even observable to anyone else. Do you know what I'm talking about? Now, I want to just bow to whatever was in me that responded to that inkling within me to take the risk, to leave the familiar, to do the inner work, to take a U-turn and go to Pendle Hill at that time in my life, in my early 20s. I want to acknowledge whatever it takes that has propelled or compelled any one of us from time to time in whatever dramatic or small way, as Palmer says, to listen to our life. Following their time at Pendle Hill, Palmer and his wife at the time, Sally, went to Wisconsin with the hope of finding a way to carry forward this living in community and this contemplative life in the world. The transition did not go so smoothly for Parker, as smoothly as he had imagined. As he describes it, several years ago, I joined with 7 others, including 2 experienced monks. You think that would have done the trick, to develop a new form of monastic community that was to be ecumenical and open to men and women, whether celibate or not. A community not walled off from the world, but governed by monastic norms. And today, that community continues, but after nearly 3 years, my share in it ended in the conclusion that I'm not a monk, but an activist. What Parker recognized was that what he needed and responded to was something different than that style of life. He continues, I do not thrive on the monastic virtues of stability, centeredness, and balance. As much as I may need those qualities in my life, the words do not name those moments when I feel most alive and most able to share life with others. I thrive on the vitality and the variety of the world of action, he writes. I value spontaneity more than predictability, exuberance more than order, inner freedom more than the authority of tradition, the challenge of dialogue more than the guidance of a rule, eccentricity more than staying on dead center. The truth is that my activist soul is enlivened by moving closer to the pole that contemplative spirituality sometimes devalues or even denies. End of the quote. Now, some of us may identify with what Palmer discovered for himself. Some of us may be inwardly cheering him on for the decision that he made, recognizing that he made the right decision. After all, it would have been the right decision since we would have made the same decision, and therefore it's obviously the right decision. What Palmer realized is that there are different styles of being spiritual or living a contemplative life in the world, and his was more a life of action. He explores this topic of active spirituality more fully in his book, The Active Life, a spirituality of work, creativity, and caring. But rather than concluding that a life of action is superior to a contemplative life, rather than declaring that spirituality falls into a dismissive woo-woo category, he found his own natural path. I am particularly using that phrase, woo-woo, for spirituality, since I'm recalling that one of our guest speakers this March used it at the same time one of our worship associates, who will remain unnamed, sharing the service with him that Sunday, was saying to herself, well, I'm a little woo-woo. Palmer recognized that it is not simply an either-or choice to live an active life or a contemplative one. He acknowledges that for many of us, we need to live in the tensions between these two poles. That is, for many of us, it's a combination of action and contemplation, and we have our own preferences and natural inclinations, and that these might shift at different times in our life. Sometimes the outer work in the world that beckons us, and sometimes it's the inner work that can also beckon us just as strongly. I'm using the word spirituality intentionally. Those who are allergic to the word might notice that on the back by the name tags are some tubes of cortisone cream that you can apply through the rest of the sermon. It does, however, have multiple and sometimes confusing meanings. So I tend to use the homeopathic approach of treatment, using the word in small doses to surface our own reactions and to allow us to acknowledge the truths of our reaction as well as the limitations of our reactions. Let's recognize that if spirituality means only some moving upward, and now I'm hearing the tune up and away in that beautiful balloon, then it might be a less useful concept for us. But could spirituality also mean transcending our conventional, socially reinforced and rewarded ways of thinking to allow ourselves the opportunity to see beyond the limits of those conventional lenses, to see more of what is? Could it be that spirituality can also mean moving downward, moving into the depths of life, moving towards a deepening that is beckoning us, and not just when we practically have no choice but to do so, as in a time of illness, uncertainty, or impending mortality? Could spirituality mean going down into our lives, entering fully into the reality of what is, not escaping, not going up and beyond and out of our lives, but deeper and within our lives? Even if my homeopathic approach is relentless, and I continue to use the word, since I'm unwilling to relinquish all the good words to the more orthodox religious groups, you don't even have to use the word, as far as I'm concerned, to be able to touch this reality. Palmer, who spent much of his life work in what we might call more secular environments like universities and profit and nonprofit institutions, of course, was asked the question directly in those contexts. He writes, "When people press me to define spirituality, the best operating definition I have ever been able to come up with is that spirituality is the eternal human yearning to be connected with something larger than our own egos." Now, healthy ego can be a guiding inner voice. Unhealthy ego, as you know, could be understood as our socially conforming self, the acceptable mask we wear as we seek approval from others. I call this unhealthy ego a suit of armor that we automatically and most often unconsciously put on each day. As life proceeds, we become more and more aware of the constraints of that armor, its limitations, and we begin to listen to our life and what Thomas Merton called the hidden wholeness that is wanting to emerge in our life. Yesterday, I had the joy of facilitating a workshop for about 12 people at our congregation. And during the workshop, we reflected on our own personality type using the Myers-Briggs type indicator and explored the implications it has for the type of spirituality or soul work or practices that feel natural to us. For me, the beauty of the workshop yesterday was that our realization that we each have different styles of being or doing what we might call spirituality, or different styles or ways of engaging in the practices that add meaning to our lives. Some of us are enlivened and find deeper meaning by engagement with others. Some of us know we are nurtured and deepened in a time of solitude, aloneness, and deep reflection. Some of us like routine. For example, a meditation practice or a set of certain practices or doses of familiar traditions or words. Some of us prefer the spontaneous, being open to synchronicity and seeing what might unfold. Some of us prefer going deeper through reading, studying, and thinking our way through towards truth or meaning. Some of us find the deeper truths by attending to our intuition and appreciating an inner wisdom that might emerge. And some of us find deeper meaning in working alongside one another to make an impact in the world, and in the process of engagement, we discover meaning and purpose. Some of us must first connect with values, inner values that propel us from this place of meaning into a life of engagement and action. Maybe you find yourself in some of those descriptors. But for me, the beauty of the workshop yesterday was that not only the realization we have different styles of being spiritual or finding deep meaning, but that we also recognized that our way is not the only true way, although we might secretly or not so secretly believe it is. We can realize that there is something of value in each of the styles, even if it's different style than our own. And that is what I appreciate about Unitarian Universalism. Although we don't always live up to it, we acknowledge that all of our styles, all of our so-called spiritualities enable us to explore a larger truth and to engage more fully in life, and that we can learn from one another even through our differences. Of course, like most humans, we like the security of our own opinions. Like most humans, we like to have our own opinions confirmed by others, right? Just say yes. But there is something in our Unitarian Universalist DNA that means that at our best, we expose ourselves to different points of view and different approaches, even as they are different from our own. At the edge of our own knowing, at the edge of our own certainty, sometimes we are invited into shifts in our own thinking, expansions in our own understanding of things. Our development, as Jean Houston says, involves giving up a smaller story in order to wake up to a larger story. That is what our Unitarian Universalist principle of acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations commits us to. We have a long tradition as Unitarians and Universalists of engaging with the religions of the world and seeking to find both common ground and to appreciate the differences. The Transcendentalists in the late 19th century, the folks like Emerson and Margaret Fuller and Henry David Thoreau, often found the Unitarianism of their time staid, stiff, and stifling. I loved that alliteration. I loved it so much, I'm going to say it again. They found the Unitarianism of their time staid, stiff, and stifling. Say it after me. Staid, stiff, and stifling. In his notorious Divinity School address to new preachers, Emerson described hearing a preacher that he could not tell whether or not the preacher had actually laughed or wept or loved or lived. The Transcendentalists were drawn to what in religion was living and life-giving, that return people to their direct experience of the divine or the holy within their own examined life, nature, or the spiritualities of the world's traditions. So it was no surprise that the Transcendentalists, including Unitarian ministers, were some of the first to read Hindu scriptures in the 19th century and to invite liberal Hindu or Vedanta teacher Swami Vivekananda to speak in America. The location of his first American speech was at the Unitarian Church of Oakland, California in 1863. Likewise, the Western Conference of Unitarians was open to the wisdom, as they said, from the world's religious and philosophical texts. And so Jenkin Lloyd Jones and Fanny Barrier Williams organized the first World's Parliament of Religions in 1893 in Chicago, where representatives from Christianity, Buddhism, Judaism, Hinduism, Islam, Zoroastrianism, Shintoism, Confucianism, Taoism, and Jainism were all present. This engagement with the world's religions is therefore part of our history and our legacy as Unitarian Universalists. It was on this date, by the way, May 12th, in the year 1961, that the Universalist Church in America and the American Unitarian Association merged or consolidated into what we call today the Unitarian Universalist Association. And as part of their articles of organization, they included this statement: the universal truths taught by the great prophets and teachers of humanity in every age and tradition, memorially summarized in the Judeo-Christian heritage as love to God and love to man. By 1985, this statement was expanded to include what we now call the sources of our living tradition, which you heard Rebecca read this morning so beautifully and inspiring and so motivated way, and also which appear on the screen. We recognized in this statement that the living tradition which we share draws from many sources. And we listed 6 of those sources, including the world's religious traditions, humanist teachings, and science. Last year, the General Assembly of the Unitarian Universalist Association voted to continue the discussion on some proposed changes to how we express these sources of the living tradition in the bylaws of the UUA moving forward. This General Assembly, they will vote on this proposal. So the proposed changes are called inspirations, and they're posted on the screen now. You will notice that the specific list of sources is not there. Instead, in the words of those who've made this proposal, they write, "We felt a better use of the bylaws would be to articulate what our inspirations do and how we should approach any source of inspiration and leave the naming of sources and histories of the impact of specific sources on Unitarian Universalism to lifespan faith curriculum." Now, as a document for bylaws, this language probably makes sense. But to communicate who we are to the wider world, this new paragraph lacks the specificity of the various sources that tend to inspire us. Not to mention, the new paragraph is harder to remember in its abstract language than the various sources that have guided us. Of course, the challenge is how to list the various spiritualities that define contemporary Unitarian Universalists. The choice to list no specific source was an expedient and attempted inclusive one. But what I'm concerned about is not specifically listing some or more of our sources. I'm concerned about the small UU congregation who might have to argue every time someone wants to include a Jewish or a Christian or an earth-centered source in their service because it's not on their particular list or listed explicitly. Because a generic statement specifically doesn't list it. They may chide those who don't really understand our Unitarian Universalist history or don't agree or resonate with that particular source. Do you get what I'm saying here? The sources of our living tradition are articulated specifically, for me, are like a garden. We can appreciate the uniqueness of each plant, each source, Christianity, Judaism, earth-based traditions, science, and humanism. We can recognize that each source has actual roots in the cultural and religious histories, and that they are rooted well in our own history as Unitarian Universalists. Moreover, when articulated specifically, we can appreciate the diversity of what each of our specific sources offers to us together. The proposed inspiration section, in my opinion, is a worthwhile attempt. But metaphorically, it feels to me more like an air plant. It's an abstraction on what we should do, as they say, and how we should approach each source. An air plant, my friends, has no roots. The air plant needs no soil, and thus, metaphorically, it's not grounded in our rich Unitarian and Universalist history and relationships to the world, other worlds, religions, humanism, and science. Moreover, trying to remember a position statement is not inspiring to me. It lacks poetry. It lacks imagery. I will continue to honor the spiritualities that exist in this room and all the varieties that are here. You are a garden to me, a beautiful and unique garden to me. Just bear with me as I appreciate each one of you in your uniqueness. I know that our lives are rooted in various cultures and personal stories, that we each have roots and actual stories that nurture our minds and our hearts and our spirits. We are enriched by the ways our lives intersect and interact with one another, sometimes visibly, sometimes subtly, like the roots, contacting and interacting with each other in the depths of the soil that hold us. The sources of our living tradition, as they're currently stated in their particularity, already have a practical use for us. Just look at each of our hymnals. Our gray hymnal is called Singing the Living Tradition. The teal hymnal is also organized around the specific sources of our living tradition. Moreover, in many Unitarian Universalist congregations around this country, we have symbols of the sources of our living tradition that appear in sculpture and murals and other symbols in our building. We'll show you a quick slideshow of those at the end of this sermon. The point is, they point us to the variety of spiritualities that are available to nurture us, to inspire us, and to challenge us. They are visible reminders to those from other faiths who visit us, our congregations, for life passage events, services, or interfaith work. They communicate that we affirm you in whatever tradition you come from, and that we can draw from what it is that you have to offer us. I love those visual reminders, those specific articulations. In an increasing multi-faith and globally interconnected world in which we live, I feel that we should learn from what each source has to offer us. We should draw explicit connections with others from other spiritual traditions, as well as all of the spiritualities that are present among us. So as we look around each other, as we look around our world, may we truly come to understand, as our opening words, our psalm conveyed, I've got some of the light in me. You've got some of the light in you. And a little bit of light from everyone is enough to see us through. So now we'll have a visual reminder of those symbols around our country in UU congregations.
You know, sometimes I tell people I'm a jubu, which is shorthand for what is then a long explanation of what that means. So it's not really a shorthand, but it's a Unitarian Universalist Jewish Buddhist. Jubu, you can use it, I didn't make it up. But you know, that really is too limiting, right? I mean, how many religions can you cram into one person? But I would never want to close myself off to beneficial areas of spiritual exploration and practice. I don't want to feel that I am at the end of my spiritual journey, that I have the answers now and can stop. Indeed, that would be contrary to both my Unitarian and Buddhist faiths. The second mindfulness training of the Order of Interbeing states in part, we are aware that the knowledge we presently possess is not changeless, absolute truth. But neither do I want to dabble or be shallow about my exploration. You know, it's hard with so many amazing and beautiful sources of wisdom to stay on a path, like a dog in the woods who, to its owner's frustration, keeps herring off after one squirrel after another. But this is where a strong spiritual community comes in. You are not alone on your journey. You can find the path forward that is right for you and that benefits the people you care about. A community of practice is so important, especially to a group of people that values religious pluralism. Without the community, we can conveniently forget about our interconnectedness. We can forget that insight or understanding only really has meaning in how we actually conduct ourselves in the world. We can find ourselves lost in the woods. On the other hand, in a community like First Unitarian, we can find programs like the Soul Matters groups that help us engage with our sources of wisdom. Check out the live stream programs as well. We can find outreach programs that help us practice and strengthen our values in the world. We can find friends who understand our struggles and with whom we can share our new insights. And we can come together every Sunday in this comfortable and attractive sanctuary and renew our commitment to free and open religious exploration. So all of this is to say, please offer your generous support to First Unitarian of Wilmington, our beloved community, so we can continue to support you and your families in your journey. During the offertory music, the ways you can make your offering will be posted on the screen. And if you're here in the sanctuary, please place your offering in the basket at the back of the sanctuary after the service. And now please join me in dedicating our offering. To the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these, our offerings. Thank you, that was beautiful. We extinguish our chalice, but not the light of hope, the fire of commitment, or the warmth of love. These we will carry like a lantern to illuminate our way until we meet again.
Those of you who saw the candle fall there may have started singing, "There's a little bit of light in you, there's a little bit of light in me, there's a little light in all of us." But fortunately, that's not the case in this circumstance. Please join us for a time of fellowship following this service, a time to connect with one another, to meet new or old friends, a time to listen to one another as if hearing them, the other, for the first time. So our benediction are from the words of Theodore Parker, deeply spiritual transcendentalist, connected to his own life of reflection, and also deeply involved in the social movements of his day, in the abolitionist movement in particular. And so he embodied both of those, the active spirituality and the contemplative life. He writes, "Be ours a religion which, like sunshine, goes everywhere, its temple all space, its shrine the good heart, its creed all truth, its ritual works of love, its profession of faith, divine living." Let's join together in singing our closing hymn, answering the call of love. If you are new, you'll notice that someone in the parish hall has a yellow cape, and she's willing to direct you, as well as someone of our welcome table, if you have any questions about who we are.
When